We'll wait for folks to catch up. This is kind of like a nice little central area. It's a so you can see how, as the farm evolves, it becomes a series of these pathways where the garden's on the edge, and it creates these nice little nooks and gathering spaces and convergences. So in permaculture, there's a saying: the edge is where the action is. And that is true in nature, and that's where permaculture gets it from. Because if you think of the edge of a field in a forest, you've got species from the field and species from the forest, whether it's plants or animals, they converge in these inner niches on that edge. The edge of a pond and land, or the ocean and land, is higher productivity and stuff than just one or the other. And so I strive to create edge because you have those synergies that happen. It also allows access to everything. Like if this was one giant food forest, I'd have to really be crawling through and finding things. Things wouldn't get the light they need. They might not get the airflow they need. But by having these paths, it allows all that to happen. And it's, I think, visually pleasing. You just meander through and it's like, oh, what's there? What's happening there? That's cool. And I see the animals do the same thing. The birds, like, ooh, check that out. I can go down on the ground and then I can jump back to a tree. Yeah, just to follow the water thread. So the two swales there, then it empties out into this swale. And then this one all goes on down over to there, and it goes to 3 more swales and finally a final pond down by the road. And here's another sign with an example of what the swales do. This was actually the first swale I dug, because it was like so wet through here. The water just kind of sheeted down, and it actually literally flooded out our 2 cabins down there. Like we would have a couple inches of water sometimes in the winter that go inside. So I was like, I got to get control of this. So this was the obvious low-hanging fruit, and that kind of caught it. And then I moved a conveyance ditch, and I started attaching other swales to that system. And there's a sign right on the other side that has a whole map of the farm, and you can kind of look at that and follow that through as well. So, and then I would say on the far property line, all of that is planted in nut trees all the way down to the road. So starting up by the cow pasture, actually even into the cow pasture, I have some of the more toxic ones. The black walnuts and stuff are way up over there. And the long-term. So you go long-term trees can be further away because it's like you don't need to do much to them. So timber trees, the pine nuts, the chestnuts, all those can be in your zones 4, zone 5, where you just check on them occasionally. And then all the way down through, it's all smattered with the chestnuts, butternuts, heart nuts, filberts, pine nuts, walnuts, all the way down through. This is a walnut tree that was here when we first moved here, right behind the winter chicken coop. So on both sides, well, we'll see it down here. On both sides of that, I have planted mulberry trees. One over here, right to the left of that green barrel, and one on the other side to help mitigate the juglans that could affect the other fruit trees further on.
Do you have honeybees?
I have had colonies, stewarded colonies in the past. We do not right now. We have plenty of pollinators, too many pollinators. People always ask that. Because we don't till, because we have brush, because we have a lot of perennial areas, we have tons of native pollinators, and we have tons of honeybees.
How can you have too many pollinators?
How come?
How can you have too many?
You get too large of fruit sets, and you start breaking branches, or you have to spend energy thinning fruit. That's been my problem.
And then I was wondering over here, I see the irrigation in these annual beds. So you only use those to plant at the very beginning,
So,
to plant the seeds?
so in the hoop houses, it's a different environment than out in the open. So in the hoop houses, we do put soaker hoses in, and we do, like, I will typically run the soaker hose during the height of the summer, maybe once a week. So the hoop, because they've got plastic over them, all that heat is like wicking off moisture. They need more help in there. And they're plants that are fast growing, high water content plants, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, that kind of thing. So aside from the hoop houses, I do irrigate anything in pots. So all my nursery stuff, I have to irrigate. They're Guantanamo. You gotta take care of them. But other than that, yeah, seeds or transplants I will irrigate once to get them established, and then that's it. I'm a little more hesitant to prune my gummies because I love them so much. So I let them get big.
Mine is massive.
But if you look at like the autumn olive right in front of you, like it's stubbed down. I hit all the autumn olives pretty much. And I just chop and drop. I just chop those sticks up into pieces and just put them right underneath. And that just turns into soil in a matter of a year or two. And that with most things, I just chop and drop. So you might see sticks, laying around like this that didn't get fully chopped up. But yeah, the gummies. So here's a young sweet scarlet gummy. It's pretty rich. Here I got a sea berry, a sweet scarlet gummy, and an autumn olive. They're all nitrogen fixers. That's pretty intense right there, right? That's maybe a little overkill. But so I'm not afraid to heavily chop the autumn olive. They're kind of my sacrificial plant that I can chop pretty severe and not worry about it. The sea berries would be another one because they tend to go really vertical. But if you start taking off the top, then they'll bush out more on the sides. And the sea berries take a male and a female. So this is a female, female, female. And then upwind, this is a male. So the males have these little pollen pouches on it. So this one male will pollinate all of these females downwind. Yeah, any other thoughts? I've got grapes over there and raspberries. Over here I have more raspberries, and I'm establishing a kiwi, more intensive kiwi cultivation. I have some kiwis going, but I want a more easier to harvest. I have kiwis just going up in trees and stuff, but I want some more trellised, intense cultivation of kiwis.
Do you just grow the small kind, or do you grow the big kind?
Both, yeah.
How did you choose your varieties of plants, the berry plants? Since you said a lot of them come from China. How did you select them since they're not something that you see here?
I look what does really well, and I've visited a lot of other permaculture farms, and I see what their guild assemblies are, and I'm always trying new things, but you tend to fall back with what really works and get that going, and then interject some new stuff here and there, and see if you can get that going too. But another mantra of permaculture is obtain a yield. So you don't want to keep trying stuff that you keep failing at, because you'll kind of get frustrated and give up. You want to do stuff that you're gonna like, hey, look at that, I got fruit, or I got nuts or whatever. Go for the easy stuff and get success, and then try some of the harder stuff. But yeah, I just look at what grows well here. Also looking at what's called climate analogies or climate analogs. So these are climates that are on our same longitude in other parts of the world. So like Great Britain is very similar to us. So you look at what are they growing? What are they doing? Oh, maybe I could try some of that. There's a great website called Plants for the Future, and they have over 6,000 productive plants species database, and you can look up stuff. Oh, what's deer resistant? What's drought tolerant? What's likes wetlands? And then kind of just make a list.
How
How do you cope with deer?
Um,
We don't want to fence our whole property.
yeah, exactly. There's a variety of deer techniques. Everything works a little different depending upon context. The one thing I would say is deer are very regimented. They walk a certain path every day at a certain time, do things. Don't put stuff they really want to eat right on their path. You know, give deer their space. You're in their space, so just give them their latitude. I know sometimes it's hard to do that. Plant stuff for deer along the way. You know, they will rarely leave their normal track too far if they have something good to eat along it. So consider some of those things before you go, oh, I got to fence everything or whatever. I mean, fences are ugly, they're awkward, they're expensive. Look at different options. I have had reasonable success with stuff called bone paste, which is Sepp Holzer, who's an Austrian permaculturist. I learned about it through him. It's essentially cooking fresh bones down until it's like a stinky barbecue sauce stuff. And there's a method to do it. If you're curious, Google bone sauce, and there's the techniques are there. Anyway, you get this stuff that's really sticky and gooey, and you thin it down. You can thin it down with whey or milk. That's a fat soluble kind of thinning. And then you can paint it on the trunk of trees or spray it on bushes, and it becomes systemic within the plant. And won't keep the deer from browsing at 100%, but it will dissuade them because it smells like burnt cousins. You know, deer have a very, very sharp nose, and they can tell what is like a burnt meat smell. It will stay active in the plant, I've heard, for decades. And you can't smell it or taste it at all, but a deer can. So that I have used. I use it here. We don't have tons of deer, but we have seen deer through here. I have used it. I do design consultations for other properties, and I've used it on clients' places that have a lot of deer pressure with pretty good success. The other thing is, you know, if you leave branches down low, like the deer will browse these off. If you prune all your branches up high to here, the deer will jump up and try and get this, and it might break or kill your tree. So leaving things down low is not a bad idea, especially when it comes to rabbits and voles. Like, they can eat some low side branches and they won't girdle all the bark off your tree. The other thing I do is I don't take all my prunings away in the winter. I just leave them on a pile on the ground. And all the voles and the rabbits and the rats or whoever are eating the bark off of those prunings, and they're not girdling my tree. So, you know, leave something for them, and they won't take everything away from you. There's other strategies. You know, there's commercial deer, invisible deer fence stuff. I've heard of people putting up an electric line and putting tin foil on it. Just one single electric strand, tin foil, and paint peanut butter on it, and the deer go and lick that first thing in the spring, and they go, ah! And then they'll never go through that flappy, shiny thing again. So training them. Yeah.
Got slugs and snails.
Oh, goodness. Just plant enough for them. Or get ducks. So that's the other saying, you know, permaculture saying is you don't have a slug problem, you have a duck deficiency. So again, it's back to pests and stuff. It's like, what's out of balance? Yeah.